Have you ever brought up a really important topic, asked a very serious question at work, only to be given a completely unrelated answer or ignored altogether? Then you've been given the sidestep.
Hi, and welcome to Yeti at Large. This is a channel focused on making the most out of what you have, no matter where you're at. Thanks for tuning in and helping out.
The sidestep's nothing new. Happens in sales all the time. You know what I mean. But it's increasingly common at work now, when you have employers in the 2025 job market that are completely ignoring important, obvious, and relevant stuff to just continue along the narrative. If you're bringing this up at work and you've experienced this, please be very careful. It goes without saying, the employers hold almost all the cards, short of patently illegal or discriminatory behavior, and unless you have a contract or a collective bargaining agreement, you're an at-will employee. So at the end of this video, we'll talk about your plan A, your plan B, C, and D, and how it relates to how courageous or how important you make your response to the sidestep. This is the third installment in our series on Know Your Value in the Workplace. We talked about toxicity, habituation, knowing your value, shutting your mouth. Go back and check out some of those videos, and please, we're trying to grow the channel. We'd like to go to 2,000 subscribers. Share this with a friend, subscribe, and leave a comment. We really appreciate your feedback and support. And we're going to continue to focus on our hypothetical business, working as a staff member in higher education in 2025. And we'll use examples based on that. And again, because it's a highly volatile work environment right now with these simultaneous pressures of governmental funding, decreasing demographics, and increased competition, this makes a prime employer to look at for all of these 2025 issues that we're dealing with. So if you're assigned to a clientele, in this case, students, and they're going grossly underserved, or there are challenging issues that could compromise the primary mission of the organization, and you bring it up, you need to be prepared to experience the sidestep. And this can be very fraught with challenges for you, being stuck in the middle of trying to serve your people, but yet aligning and meeting those needs of the organization as a whole. The first step in this is always to seek to understand first. You really need to know what your supervisor's pressure points, pain points, and what's important to them. Now, whether you agree with it, support it, or think it's reasonable, that's irrelevant. But you'd better understand it so that if you're bringing something across that threshold, you'll be able to gauge early on how well received it will be, how much of value your supervisor or the leadership team may place on that, and how much risk you're exposing yourself to. So again, you'll recognize if you're being given a sidestep. Think of all those times you've been on the phone with customer service and couldn't get a straight answer from anybody, only to get shuffled around and then ultimately disconnected. Well, we're talking about this happening at work. And again, were you ignored completely? Were you given a completely wrong answer that only towed the company line? They're not being obtuse. This is specific and deliberate. This is no accident. My favorite is when they rephrase your question to fit a narrative that's more supportive for their point of view. Doesn't provide any real remedy or solution to the customer. That rephrasing certainly lets you know what's expected moving forward. Sometimes the sidestep can come proactively, not as a response to your questions or concerns or things that you bring up in a meeting. I recently witnessed the sidestep in action proactively at our theoretical business model of higher education, and it was delivered to the incoming class, the freshmen, and it was clearly designed to create brand loyalty and an identity while ignoring the painful, obvious truth that was right in front of everyone to see. And let's talk about this sidestep from the SWOT acronym. SWOT, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. Those of you that have been in the corporate business world for a while know this model and you've heard it well. Where the sidestep took place in this scenario is, boy, did they ever focus on the strengths and opportunities. It was interesting how they show you a cavalcade of awards they've received from industry leaders and then how they show you projections moving forward and brag about the endowment. They even went so far as to show you big posters of buildings on paper that don't exist yet, but they're coming soon, and these are massive capital investments. Furthermore, in those strengths and opportunities, then they talk about being cutting edge and the demand for these positions in the industry, and they show projections and models moving all the way out. Where the sidestep took place is they ignored the weaknesses and the threats. They didn't bother talking about the shrinking demographic base and how 15 to 17% fewer high school graduates are going to be entering collegiate ranks, and that the pressures universities are under with funding, other related governmental compliance issues in 2025. The second thing that I couldn't help but notice is they marched in invocation all of the faculty with all their regalia. This has historically been designed to create a sense of awe and authority and create that desire to be part of those ranks. Well, I dare say in 2025, I don't think that applies near as much as it used to. The interesting thing is the faculty proceeds in with the standard and the goffalons and all the regalia and all of that, and they're seated. Nobody bothered to mention that 25% of those seats were empty. Having been at this event the previous semester, I realized those 25% of empty seats represented vacancies. Those are faculty, staff that are missing from the teaching ranks of the university. Increasingly, universities are relying more on adjunct faculty than ever, which is ironic because in this procession they never bothered to acknowledge the adjunct faculty, treating them though as they are not esteemed somehow, even though they're carrying a large portion of the water in the teaching ranks. But nobody bothered to mention the fact that, hey, by the way, we're missing 1 out of 4 professors to fill the classes that we have scheduled starting in just a couple of days. That's a sidestep in and of itself. Not being honest and mentioning those weaknesses and those threats to the system. So let's not berate the point too much on the sidestep. You know it when you've sensed it. You know it when it's being presented to you. What you got to determine is how you feel about it and how much you're going to do about it. It's those simple cues. You ask a very basic yes or no question and you're given a very long-winded answer. Warning. Even more frightening is when you're absolutely correct and the organization is not. Danger. You got to ask yourself, what's it worth to you? Because it goes back to one of the most fundamental sales precepts you've ever heard. ABC. Always be closing. They are. Are you? And if you are closing, do you have the wherewithal to stand by your position? What's your rainy day fund look like? I will tell you, I used to think a rainy day fund of 6 months was adequate. Several years ago, I discovered a rainy day fund needs to be more about 2 years. Could you withstand not working, pay your bills, and maintain a comfortable lifestyle with insurance and housing and transportation with the rainy day fund you have in place? If your answer is no, or I'm not sure, please reinforce that. A banded woodpecker's up in the tree wondering what I'm doing out here. So with that rainy day fund, you've got to understand that debt or poverty is the enemy of liberty and freedom. Having a couple bucks in the bank to pay your bill gives you a peace of mind you can't imagine. And it could give you strength and motivation at work, especially if you're seeing the kinds of things that are giving you pause and worrying you, like the sidestep. In the beginning of the video, we talked about your plan A, your plan B, C, and D. Now for me, plan D is a noodle restaurant in the islands, so that's already fulfilled. But when it comes to that plan A, have you written down a plan A at work? Like you, I've had those moments at work where I've just had enough, and walking out the door sounds really good. Well, it's never quite that simple, and it's never quite that easy. Even when you decide you're done at a position and you leave voluntarily, there's still turmoil and upheaval, insurance issues, all that kind of stuff. So please, slow your roll on plan A, but write it down. What do you expect from this position? What do you want from this employer? What's realistic? What can you live with? Go back further into some of our other videos where we've talked about beyond quiet quitting. We did a whole series on this a little over a year and a half ago, and we talked about a lot of those details. Plan B. Are you actively working a plan B, a succession plan, a continuation of service? I would strongly recommend, whether you have been in a new position for 4 months or you've been in an established position for 10 years, that you keep 1 foot on the dock and 1 foot in the boat, and you have your resume warmed up, you're actively looking at other opportunities, not putting your current position at risk, but you're building skills, documentable, verifiable skills towards other positions that you covet more. Stay fresh, stay agile, stay sharp. Have a plan to land on your feet, because in 2025, I think so many things that many of us took for granted that were safe houses are off the table. I'm Gen X. I grew up in the 80s. I watched a lot of my friends' parents get axed for no reason, and we swore right then and there that our personal lives and our heart and our time were worth more than any gold watch. Well, we're seeing it come to a whole new level in 2025 with phantom job postings, spontaneous terminations, layoffs. It's crazy. Take good care of yourself. Save your money. Have a nest egg, a rainy day fund. Keep growing it. Keep growing your skills. Stay flexible. Keep one ear to the ground and be ready to pounce if something better comes along. But do it on your terms. And recognize that sidestep if it comes your way. You won't tolerate it in sales when you're willing to spend your money. Why should you tolerate it at work? Thank you so much for joining us. I appreciate you tuning in. Please like, subscribe, and share this with a friend. We'd like to get to 2,000 subscribers, and with your help, we can get there. Yeti at large. All right, we're done filming. Let's go inside. Maybe it's time for a quickie.